Before we get into the podcast, make sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at This Strange World Podcast and on Twitter at This Strange Pod. Welcome back to the This Strange World Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Gavin. And Leah, you brought us a very interesting topic today. I'm very excited to get into it, something in a different scheme of what we've covered. What are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about SCPs. I'm just going to give a little overview of what the SCP is, what the SCP Foundation is, and then we'll hop right into 6 really cool SCPs that I was able to find.
Yeah, definitely tell us what SCP means, because I have no idea what that means. Of course, I know you do.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
I have a general idea of what it means.
Yeah, what are SCPs?
Okay. The SCP Foundation is a fictional organization. SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect. The SCP Foundation is responsible for locating and containing individuals, entities, locations, and objects that violate natural law. The SCP Foundation series originated in the quote paranormal /x/forum of 4chan.
4chan?
Of 4chan.
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 Also, you don't need to say backslash. You could just say slash. It doesn't matter if it's forward or backslash.
No, I was like saying it, yeah. The first special containment procedure, SCP-173, was posted in 2007. Now, I will mention 173 later on, but that will be last.
I had no idea what SCP stood for. What did you just say it stands for? Secure, Contain, Protect?
Exactly,
and
yeah.
It's like some sort of supernatural thing. I thought it was like something creepypasta. Because I understand it's like a story. But I thought it was like this spaghetti creepypasta. I don't know, something with S, but yeah. I thought it had to do with like the word creepypasta.
I think a lot of people think that is originally from creepypasta, and that's where people start to think, oh, SCP is related to creepypasta and originated from creepypasta, but really it's 4chan. And yeah.
I thought they were both on 4chan. Like that.
Yeah.
Oh, but they're two different things.
SCPs are on numerous type of websites, so it could be on Wiki, it could be on the SCP website.
So is the SCP website a fake organization that tells these fake stories?
Correct. Or makes up these fake,
it's a fake organization. Characters. It's almost like S.H.I.E.L.D. from like the Avengers, like where it's like it's a fake. Obviously, it's a fictional organization. Well, I mean, this is a real fictional organization that tells stories.
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Quote.
Fake?
Oh my god. That's so sad. I know Captain America is not real, but that quote, it's real, but it's like it's a real thing, but they tell these stories about these like supernatural things, right?
Well, they're not real in any way, shape, or form.
The stories or the organization? I assume it's a real organization. Someone's got to be telling these stories. I assume.
No. So everything surrounding the SCP is
or
the whole organization.
Can anyone write an SCP? And just call it.
Anyone can write one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but it's from the perspective of a fake organization, like almost like a case file, maybe.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I could see how that could probably, I assume, amass almost like a fandom-esque group of followers. If then it's like a lot of interacting with like different people writing it and stuff.
So you said that all SCPs have a number to them. So like, let's say that there's like SCP-743 or something. Does that mean that there's like 743 other SCPs? Like, does it go in order? Like,
no.
Can someone just write a random number to go along with this SCP?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. You can just write a random number.
Did you say it has to do with the date, or like it might not? Sometimes it's just
sometimes they're pronounced like dates, like 1941, but sometimes they're not. So you got to be really specific as to which one you are mentioning.
Gotcha.
So with you, Gavin and Chris, I did make a Google Doc, and I did put a few pictures of the SCPs that I will be talking about.
We should get sponsored by Google or whoever is willing to let us have a document sharing service. If anyone wants to sponsor us, let us know.
Yeah.
Message us on Instagram. Anyway, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
No, you're good.
So we're looking at pictures in a Google Doc that you made so that we can see it, but we don't know what these are or the descriptions or stories behind it. But we'll do our best to explain what they are, and we'll also be very clear. So if you want to look it up.
So in this podcast, some SCPs are a little bit more detailed and you have to actually describe them, while others are pretty simplistic and you can kind of just put the image right in your head. So I will
We'll do our
start
best to
out.
describe them. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I will start out with SCP-096, the humanoid, or the shy guy.
More like SCP-069. Oh, nice. I'm so sorry.
I don't want this to show up in my room.
I'm so
Gavin.
sorry. Anyway,
Yeah, you wouldn't, and I will tell you why. SCP-096 is to be contained in an airtight steel cube at all times and is left in the dark all alone. There is absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside 096's cell. Now, this sounds kind of sad and depressing, but there is a reason why it must be alone with no outside contact of any sorts. The reason is that this humanoid creature hates being watched. If someone were to even look at the photo of 096, it will break out of its
Why is this the first one and you're showing us pictures of this?
I'm so sorry.
Also,
don't worry. I think
why are we recording this at night? Now I'm going to be scared. I'm not going to be able to go to sleep. Continue.
Oh, this isn't the one that you won't be able to go to sleep to, trust me.
Oh, no.
If someone were to even look at a photo of 096, it'll break out of its containment and will track down the person until it finds them and ends them.
Bruh. This is what we're starting off with? All right, do you want to just describe what we're looking at so people don't have to look at this picture and have it hunt them down?
So yeah, this kind of just looks like an old, a little bit deranged person. Doesn't even look like a man or a woman.
Slenderman-esque. It's a very skinny. You can see the ribs. It's this humanoid shape. There's extremely long limbs. Its arms are like the size of its legs, and like.
No, the arms are like the longest part of the body.
Maybe the arms are longer than the legs, but like like its forearm is like almost the length of its torso, and like its leg, like each bend of the leg is like, it's like twice the length of the body. So it's got.
It has no malnutrition in it as well. There's like it's just skin and bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting like Rake vibes. Like, you ever hear like the Rake?
No, I haven't.
The Rake.
Is that like a creepypasta?
That's another that's another podcast.
I was saying like it's like almost Slenderman-esque, but without if Slenderman wasn't wearing the suit, almost.
And not malnourished, but yes,
You're
exactly.
giving me bad
That's the
images,
vibes.
Gavin.
Yes. Anyway.
Okay. So the next SCP is SCP-978, the Polaroid.
Oh, do we have a picture for this? Should we scroll?
No. I'll tell you if there's a picture for it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The next SCP does not have a photo, but it is called SCP-978, the Polaroid camera. And I think this one is the coolest one because we all are TBR majors. So
love cameras. You mentioned cameras? Oh, you have my full attention.
Ooh, what is going on?
Is it like a malnourished camera?
SCP-978 is so dangerous that it is only to be handled by security personnel at a secret facility. When you first look at 978, this SCP anomaly looks like an old Polaroid camera. Like any camera, you just point it at your subject, take a picture, and then it instantly produces a physical photograph. But here's a twist. The picture that 978 captures reveals an ugly truth, the person's deepest, darkest desires at the moment.
Oh.
So it's like a snitch.
It's like that mirror in Harry Potter. What's that called? Do you guys like Harry Potter? You know that mirror?
I've never seen it.
Oh my god, you guys don't know? There's a mirror that shows like either like your destiny or like your wishes. I'm totally butchering it. But that then like Harry sees his parents in it and stuff. It's like
Oh, that one.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I think that's people that have had their picture taken by 978 have had such disturbing desires that they have been put on indefinite leave. For example, one photo was taken of a doctor holding a baby kitten. The photo showed that the doctor had twisted, murderous intentions within. When the doctor was asked about the photograph, he said, "I would never do that to a kitten."
I mean, why would you not deny? Like, you should definitely deny it.
I kind of want to get my picture taken by this thing to see what happened. You know, like just a picture of me holding something, like a little.
what you want.
You don't even have to be holding something. You could just be like there, and it'll be like, oh, this is what you want.
And I just want to see what is my deepest desires that I have no idea.
It's like Lucifer. It's like when Lucifer on Netflix, when he's asked, "What is your deepest, darkest desire?" He says,
"Oh yeah," and then you talk about it. It's like this is the camera version of that.
He's literally SCP-978. Now the next one is SCP-1231. 1231 is an old black Amiga 1200 computer made by Commodore International. This computer runs by itself with no power source, and the only display that it shows is thumbnails. To be exact, 4,352 thumbnails. This thumbnail screen cannot be shifted, meaning that you can't change to another screen. Every thumbnail is a very low resolution moving picture, like a GIF or GIF, however you pronounce it. When clicking on a thumbnail, it expands to the size of the computer screen and shows a scene of unknown people performing something within the loop. For example, one thumbnail shows a woman dislocating and relocating a man's shoulder.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like a boomerang. Like a
boomerang.
It's like a boomerang. Oh.
Exactly.
Well, that's weird.
But here's the twist. The Foundation thinks that 1231 is a soul trap, and that the people seen in the thumbnails are, or at least were, real people. This was later confirmed when the Foundation contained 1231 and stopped studying it, but the thumbnails kept increasing.
Wait, so their more thumbnails kept coming on even though they weren't? Like, so how is it a soul... What? Soul trap? Like, when people die,
like
they
the people,
go into
I guess, that were looking at it, they're like, they kept being like, not physically, but they were absorbed into the computer, and then there were GIFs of them.
I think we need to go back to the fact that this doesn't have a power source, which I don't know about your computer. My laptop doesn't last for as long as I'd like it. So if I could have it run without a power source, that I would take whatever I could get.
Mm-hmm.
So already I was on board with this from the beginning. The moment you said it doesn't need a power source, I was in, full on.
I mean, yeah, with all the editing that we do, I think that'd be
But so you're saying that there's all these... How many thumbnails did you say were on it? Is a lot. It was like 4,000.
4,352 thumbnails.
That's a lot. Yikes. If I have like 50 things on my screen, I'm like, it's too many things. I can't see it. So like well over 4,000. That's a lot of things. And
yeah.
I wonder what the graphics are when it expands. Like, I wonder what the resolution is when it expands. Does it go up to like 1080, or is it like still like 420s and not?
I kind of got these off of videos, and all the really information that they gave.
It didn't say the resolution
within my paragraph. It didn't really say resolution, but
what technical things already? We have a camera as number 2, and we have a computer as number 3,
and we have a humanoid man.
And we have a humanoid as 1. So a lot of these SCPs so far, it kind of sounds like, it's all now processing in my head. The whole thing is that you're trying to secure these creatures or like supernatural things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so the thing with some of them, so like the first one we looked at, the humanoid, they like trapped it in the box, the steel box. Mm-hmm. And so that's them like securing it and containing it. But if you look at a picture of it, or if it's seen by something, it'll escape. The second one, the camera, it sounds like they secured it, but it sounds like it can still be used. Like, it's not like it's really, it's not harming people the way that the humanoid is or the computer is of potentially soul sucking.
Yeah, but it could get you fired from your dream job, you know?
True. So it has different types of repercussions. It's like, it's not necessarily meant to kill you. It's more so meant to, I don't know, assist in you potentially getting fired.
Firing? Yeah.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of like Men in Black, where it's like you have like a group of people going after and trying to capture.
Yeah, and so that's why I also think it's especially interesting that it's like, since anyone can kind of write these, is there a real group of people or an organization that are officially SCP people or whatever that are like validated, or no? It's people being like, oh yeah, and there's this other one.
Exactly. It's just a big fandom of like whoever wants to make something, make it up, and either make it really bad or good for the Earth.
And then I assume stuff that's good then becomes more popular, more people see it, then it almost essentially becomes more canon. Then people probably do fan art of it, and like that's how like this whole kind of community can grow.
I don't necessarily think the sweeter, the nicer it is, it'll have more fan art because I've
No, I'm
seen
saying
a
like the
lot
more
of like,
popular. Like if it gets more
oh,
popular, there'd be more like drawings and pictures
exactly,
made of it. Like
exactly.
because like the
Yeah.
humanoid one, like someone had to make these pictures that like what
Mhm.
I assume. I mean, they look like two slightly different styles. Like one of them's a little more clear. So
Mhm.
I assume someone else saw this and was like, oh, I want to make my own take on it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, there were a lot of photos of the humanoid, because I think that is also one of the more well-known SCPs. Some that I'm
Mm-hmm.
mentioning are a little bit on the lower scale, but some are
yeah.
actually like really known for
Do you happen to
exactly.
know approximately how many SCPs there are, or is it almost kind of a thing where it's kind of unknown because there's like so many and that they're all the different numbers that like it's
I honestly couldn't tell you just because the numbers are like so sporadic. Like
yeah
there's not a number 1 SCP. There's not like a
yeah
number 2. Like you just punch
yeah,
out numbers and, you know,
and you don't know if there are
so
small
yeah.
scale ones versus big scale. Like yeah, it's crazy. It's I mean it already seems like it's a big thing, and we've
Yeah.
only gone through
Yeah,
three of
yeah.
them. Yeah,
Exactly,
but
yeah.
anyway, the computer, love the computer. That's a great idea. Love it. Big fan. What's tell us about the
So you
next
can
one.
use it so it doesn't run out of
Yeah, so I
Okay,
can use it
so
to like edit. You ever like the little thumbnails and editing?
exactly,
Like
that's
I
what I was
love that.
saying. Plus, like, all those editing softwares just drains your computer, so, like,
Exactly.
there you go. So, the next one, if you guys go to the Google Doc, if you just
Oh.
scroll down to the next page, SCP-478 Teeth,
Oh
I
my
will
god.
explain this
Oh
SCP a little bit
my
more.
god.
uh, uh,
Exactly. So, the
uh,
order of the pictures goes from the bug to the mouth to the person. So, you will understand that. It's pretty
uh,
simplistic, but I'm gonna first explain the SCP and then I'm gonna describe the SCP. So, this is SCP-478 Teeth. Now, this one I think is one of the coolest ones, but also one of the grossest ones.
ooh.
I'm already
Exactly. And
grossed
there's your
out.
reactions right now just from looking at the photo.
Ew.
It first starts off with a tiny dark-like moth entity fluttering through the air. It does not seem like these moths require food or water, but they do, however, require a mouth or mouths of a human. While people sleep, these tiny creatures climb into the mouth and attach themselves to the soft palate of the upper nasal cavity.
Like the roof of your mouth or like
Yeah,
even
basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sleeping again.
I mean, we ingest so many what is it? Like 10 bugs a year or something like that. So like this is
Oh,
just one of them. This is one of
Ain't
the
this is just
yeah.
one of them.
this is just one of the anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
Once in the cavity, they burrow in and begin to grow rows and rows of new teeth.
Oh my god.
After a while, these teeth spread throughout the mouth until it starts growing throughout the body. Now, you can, however, survive this SCP with oral surgery, but you must do it early on.
So, okay, so I have a question about the SCPs. You might not know this answer. So you said it's a bug that goes into your mouth, and it's SCP-478. Is that like a species, or is that a single entity? Like,
I wonder if they can all be kind of taken differently, whether it's a year or whether like SCP-478 is like this moth creature. Like I wonder if it's like almost people like with their takes on it,
but
possibly.
I'm saying like we classified this one as SCP-478, but is that like a species of bug, or is that like a single bug that just goes to a bunch of
No,
different
it's just
people?
like a made-up bug.
There's like the story.
Um,
Here's I'm gonna describe what we're looking at. So we have the one picture of this. It just kind of looks like a weird looking moth. Then there's it looks like the roof of a mouth, and there's the main row of teeth, and then any empty space is filled with smaller teeth. It's a lot of molars, really.
mhm.
So it's just imagine the roof of a mouth with, I don't know, at least 20 other teeth in it, ranging in sizes. And then the third picture we see is like the size of not an adult, like it looks almost like a child. It's a small person
Poor kid.
who is
Yeah.
covered with just teeth. It's just all
Like, you
teeth.
can't even tell where the mouth is. You can't tell where the nose or the eyes are. It's
No,
just
you can tell that
undistinguishable,
it's like it
honestly.
looks like almost like scales, but the scales are teeth.
Yeah. I think the really important thing is if you look at the first picture, the moth, I'm not sure exactly if this picture is, like, accurate,
Something's on the back.
obviously, but exactly, there are little creatures on the moth or, like, in the
Oh,
moth's
It's like,
abdomen and stuff,
yeah,
and that just
no.
it's so
it's
nasty.
like little creatures, and it almost looks like the heads are teeth too. Like it's kind of like that's where the teeth come from.
It does,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
The picture of the boy It reminds me of, I watched this TV show a while ago that was on Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi channel. It was called Channel Zero, and I think it was about like creepypastas. And so I immediately thought of it because it's an anthology series. It's kind of like American Horror Story, but about creepypastas. And so the first season is called Candle Cove, and it's basically about this. It's like about children's entertainment, but this child psychologist thinks that there's one show that he remembers, but like no one else even remembers existing. And there was a character which I showed, like if you looked it up, you would see that there's a character that picture actually might be taken from the show, because it like there's like a character that was covered in teeth, and so I wonder if that whatever that season was based on was similar to this. I don't remember exactly if it was like a moth and stuff. It had to do with like a children's TV show that like something like that.
Yeah. I will say that TV actually creates some content off of these SCPs. Sometimes they adjust what the thing will be, what the entity or person or whatever will be, which I will mention in the last SCP. But you are totally right. This could be totally taken from that show, and
I'm sure so many of these can be like inspirational to different horror things, and like you could easily like take something like this and like run with it and like make something else. I could totally see, and then especially since it's like there's so many of them, and it's like similar on the scale of like creepypasta.
So now, Gavin and Chris, when you scroll down to the bottom of the document, you will see SCP-999. And I will now say that not all SCPs are horrible. In fact, with your reaction, Chris, some are actually helpful and kind. For example, SCP-999 is actually one of them. 999 appears to be a large, amorphous, gelatinous mass of translucent orange slime, kind of like Jello, I guess. You could say.
Yeah.
The size and shape of 999 constantly changes. The Foundation describes it as playful and dog-like in nature, which is just so sweet. So sweet. When you approach 999, he will react with overwhelming happiness. He will then slither over to the nearest person and hug them with a pair of pseudopods while nuzzling the person's face with a third pseudopod.
What is a pseudopod?
I think it's like a tentacle, right?
Or is it like
I just looked it up. It says, tell me if this helps. A pseudopod is another term for pseudopodium.
That doesn't help at all. If anything, that makes it less
really
clear.
Helped, yeah.
Anyway, tell us more about 999.
While hugging you, he will then emit a high-pitched gurgling and cooing noise. It is said that he smells different to every person. For example, Chris might smell the ocean, I might smell a rose, and Gavin might smell lavender. Anyways, touching 999's surface causes intense and immediate euphoria. This feeling intensifies the longer the subject is exposed. This is definitely a nice trait to have because it is drawn to people who are unhappy or who are hurt.
Oh,
this is the sweetest SCP, and it looks like the cutest SCP.
Do you want to describe
it?
So why would they want to contain it?
Well, some SCPs I think are like contained because of the harm that they could do, but I think some SCPs are left out in the open or just kind of in a facility where you can interact with it. I'm not sure. I'm like 100%. I'm not 100% sure, but
it seems like those are general guidelines that they just kind of give, but like for the good ones, you're not gonna like secure it and like take it down. But like
So I'd literally say that SCP-999 basically looks like a big Jello cup, just like the Snapchat ghost. He looks like the figure of the Snapchat.
I was gonna say it almost reminds me of like a Ditto from like Pokemon. Of like that, it's like
I didn't play Pokemon, so I don't know what that is.
Like it was a purple thing. It's like a similar shape of this, where it's just kind of a blob. It's got two black eyes on the sides. It's got like
kind of
just a line for a mouth. This one looks a little bit more not wet, but like it's not as smooth. But this
I think
also...
999 is more like conformed than Ditto. Now that I'm seeing Ditto, but I don't know.
But so what's interesting about this picture that we're looking at is it kind of goes back to earlier what I had said about how like people could be drawing it and stuff, because there's a signature at the bottom where this one looks much more like it was like a fan art or like a drawing or something.
Right.
And it almost looks there's like a bucket of like almost cereal behind it. What
I
is
thought
it?
it was
It kind of
Skittles.
looks like M&Ms or Skittles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there are any brown Skittles, so I'm gonna go with M&Ms.
It was M&M.
I was like,
Yeah.
is that like a cereal or something? There's a bucket of something. But so, yeah, it seems like just this kind of cute thing. And so it's like, does it specifically get you to emit your favorite smell or just a nice smell?
Your favorite.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's why I texted you guys, and
Yeah,
I was like, "What's
I-
your favorite
I
smell?"
remember.
yeah,
I remember when
I
you
was
asked
like,
us
what?
what our favorite smells were, and you were like, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, and then
how
I
many times
texted
it
one
took
back.
me to get that text correct? On
And I texted one back, and you're like, no.
That's too complex.
Send another one.
because what was it, petrichor or
I said
asphalt?
the smell. I said the smell that you smell like when rain is on like
Fresh rain.
pavement, like the smell of
Oh,
rain
on
on
asphalt.
pavement.
Yeah.
And you
Asphalt,
said,
yeah.
and you
It's too
said,
complex.
choose something less, less complicated.
So you said the
Yeah.
ocean. All right,
And
the
I was
ocean.
I'm like,
The
hey,
ocean.
that's perfect. I'll do it.
Yeah, so I'm glad that there was a happy one because, you know, it seems like with all of the negative ones, and I mean all of it, like almost being evil, I wonder, like, kind of what percentage of them are kind of neutral beings that aren't aggressive or just are nice or helpful or, like, this seems like it would really help people with anxiety or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
it would help me
He's
a
just
lot. It
misunderstood.
would really
He's
help
just,
me.
he's quirky,
I know.
he's misunderstood.
He's just
Yeah.
misunderstood.
He's like the girl
I know
next
that
door.
there-
He's Radio Rebel. He's just like you and me.
I know that there are a lot of other like nice SCPs
There
out
are,
there.
there
I will
aren't?
put them. There are. I will put them in the next podcast, but this one was like
Yeah,
my
we'll do it
number
for
one.
part 2. I
Are
really
they
like that.
are they over? This is majority bad of SCPs. Are they mostly bad?
I wonder if it's not necessarily that they're evil, if it might just be that maybe some are aggressive or like not aggressive. Like if it doesn't interact with people, it's probably just fine, like vibing on its own.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the ratio to good and versus evil is, because
Yeah.
again, the numbers are just so sporadic, and
Yeah.
that's thousands of SCPs that I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, Gavin and Chris, if you go to page 2 of the Google Doc, first I will.
What is that? A chicken?
Holy.
What is that?
poop
It's
butt.
like Chicken Little.
All right.
Honestly,
No, don't even describe it. Let's jump right into it.
Okay.
I want to know what.
Yeah, first I'm gonna explain the SCP, and then we will describe it. Now, to end the SCP list, this is the OG SCP.
Wow.
So this was like the first one
I feel
that
like
was
I'm
ever
in the presence
created.
of royalty. Wow.
All right.
Oh, but it's like completely useless. Okay. Anyways, this is SCP-173, known as the Sculpture. This one is my favorite just because there was an episode, or there's a show named Doctor Who, and they must have gotten their Weeping Angel kind of idea from
The Weeping
SCP-173.
Angel was inspired by it.
Yes, exactly.
Was inspired by this. Came before the Weeping Angel.
Yeah, right?
When
did
I think
When
so.
did the Weeping? I mean, Doctor Who's been going on for a while.
Exactly, but they didn't introduce the Weeping Angel till season.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. We're gonna have some.
Yeah, we can look that up.
If that's true, that's cool.
But the Weeping Angel in Doctor Who, it's definitely my favorite, like, enemy. Like, I love these guys. They look really, really creepy.
The Weeping Angel was introduced in 2007.
This was when the SCP was released. This SCP was released.
Yeah, who knows if what was inspired by what? Except
Like
I mean,
the chicken and the egg. What came first? SCP, the Sculpture, or the Weeping Angel?
Yeah.
That's fun.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
you'd
this
have to
doesn't
find
look
an
like
exact.
it doesn't look like a statue. Although you did say sculpture. So anyway, tell us about SCP-173, the Sculpture.
SCP-173 is the most famous SCP creature of all time and has appeared in video games as well as other media, although you would never want to meet SCP-173. Its origin is unknown, but some believe the sculpture to be a predatory creature from another dimension. This strange entity does nothing when you are looking at it, but if you take your eyes off of it even for a millisecond, that is when you are in danger. If you blink or look away, when your eyes return back onto 173, it will have moved closer to you. If you look away again for too long, 173 will attack by attacking or snapping your neck or by strangulation. So basically, don't blink.
Wow.
Don't
Whatever
blink,
you do, don't blink.
That definitely seems like a good one to start with as the first one for a quote
I was thinking
organization
about
that
that.
secures. What's the C? Secure.
Secure, contain, protect.
Secure, contain, protect. Yeah, this definitely seems like a good first one to be secured and contained, and it looks like it's in a room. All right, so wait, do we want to describe it?
Yeah. So, would any of you like to describe it, or
Chris, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, I mean, I said it before. I feel like this looks like Chicken Little, like
Chicken
a really
Little on like crack.
yeah,
It
like
looks
a
tall.
demonic
It looks
Chicken
really
Little.
tall.
It is really tall.
It's basically like a white figure. It doesn't really look like it has arms or legs. It just kind of has nubs. It looks like if you just sliced off the hands and feet. Like it has legs and arms. It just doesn't have hands or feet.
Well, I think the picture that you mainly want to be looking at is the biggest one that's on the side where he's kind of looking at, what is that even? Like
The
a steel
lockers?
wall or something, or the lockers. Yeah, that's the one that is like really
I mean,
well
all these
known and out
images
there.
are kind of similar, and then it kind of looks like it has like an opening in the middle. Like I can't even process what there's all these
So,
different
like,
maybe
it looks
eyes
like
or
exactly like 4 eyes, and then I'd say kind of like a slit or incision in the center between the eyes where like the nose would be.
yeah.
And
It's just
the
kind of like a
arms
black
are really
hole.
stubby like a T-Rex kind of.
And it has like red all
The
over his face.
body
I assume
is
blood, maybe.
maybe
Ugh.
blood. It has like
You have to look this
really
up.
elongated body, like really elongated torso,
It
I'd
also has a
say,
big
but
head. That's
big,
why we
yeah.
said Chicken Little.
So there is one other thing about this SCP. I don't have it written on my notes, so I will try and kind of go
Oh, you're going off
script,
Ooh,
which is gonna be really
Wow.
perfect.
This is big.
Right?
This is big.
So from a video, apparently this SCP emits like a fecal matter and blood and stuff. So only 3 people within this organization or that have special security clearance go into its cell, and one cleans up the stuff while the other 2 keep its eyes on that SCP. Now, if a person does want to blink, they have to let the other person know, because then that's when you will be in trouble.
Wow. Yeah. I would want more than 2 people in there. Like, if I was the one scraping up the poop of whatever this thing is, I would be like, yo, get me like 10 guys in there. And if everyone blinks at the same time, we're all screwed.
Right.
Like,
it would make sense, Leah, why I think you said that this was your favorite one, right? It would make sense this is your favorite one because you're a very big Doctor Who fan. And
10th and 11th Doctor, yeah.
This is like kind of right up your alley here because this is like a Weeping Angel type thing. And you always said that you liked the Weeping Angels.
So then this one, the person who created this, was that the person who created the idea of SCPs?
That's what I'm getting, but I'm not sure. Because it could be like a whole group
I would assume,
and like,
or like a group of people. Like I assume they must have also created the idea of the organization and this one creature. I assume the idea of the organization didn't exist, but yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, imagine kind of starting something like any one of these types of people who started the SCPs or creepypastas or any of these big online things that, especially on like 4chan and stuff. Imagine being one of those people to like create something like that blows up
like
to be
so huge,
such a big thing that people are making their own versions of it, and it's like it's almost like such an open format that anyone can make it, whether it works with fan art, whether it's probably, I assume, people telling the story or making videos about it, or like us talking about it like that, or people making the stories themselves or the characters. Like, it just seems like such an open world almost for all these different creative aspects of being a part of it. It seems very interesting.
There is an honorable mention that I actually found, which was really cool. I didn't incorporate it in the list because it just was a lot, but basically this is SCP-1548. Now this is basically a star like any other star out there, except this star has feelings and it wants to come to the Earth and destroy us, and this star is heading towards us at very, very fast speeds. That was overall summed up, but I thought this one was pretty cool because I really like astronomy.
Yeah, it's kind of like an asteroid or a meteor. What's the difference between an asteroid and a meteor? Do we know?
One is in the atmosphere, and then one is like out of the atmosphere.
Ah, yeah.
So like one will have a tail, and then one won't have a tail.
Well, then there's a comet. What's the? and you bring
No,
that
but
to
I
it.
think like that's like.
Yeah, it's something like that. So, yeah, that one's another
Yeah.
interesting one.
I like
Like
that
on a
one.
wider scale and like bringing it into space. Like whether I
Mhm.
wonder a lot of these other ones, origin stories. Is it something that was found on Earth, deep underground, or was it
Mhm.
something from space or an alien or man-made or all these different things? Like it definitely creates a lot of abilities for different origins.
Called the hateful star for a reason, because it hates us. Anyways, so I have to ask you guys throughout this whole list, besides the cute one, because that is my favorite one, which one is your favorite?
That's a great question.
I would prefer the camera one because again, I'd really want to see what would be in my photo. Like, what are my deepest desires? Like, if I was just like typing on a computer, like, what would I want to do with that computer?
Yeah,
What are my deepest desires?
I like the camera one too. I also really liked the computer one. Which number was that? What was that? SCP?
1231.
1231, because I want to know where someone found it. Because then I assume if it's some sort of alien or technology-esque thing like that, that like how many people must have stumbled upon it before it was then contained, which is where I assume all the souls came from. Now, like a lot of these have the capability for really interesting backstories and stuff. But yeah, I like the computer one. What about you, Leah? Or you said the cute one's your favorite one, or this last one?
I mean, yeah, I think out of the cute one and the original SCP, man, I think honestly my favorite is SCP-478, the teeth, just because.
Oh, the teeth is spooky. That's a
Yeah.
spooky one.
Chris's reaction kind of summed up why
It's
I liked it, because it's just so disgusting and so grossly, like I can't explain, but it's definitely my favorite, because just think about having teeth as like your skin.
Yeah.
I hate that one.
It's like make my skin crawl.
So there is a side note that SCPs sometimes they will have other numbers added on, so it will be like SCP-478-1, which would be there's something a little bit different from the original, so maybe it'll be like the original plus. Exactly. I'm not sure for a fact, but this is kind of what I got while looking at the Wiki SCP site, which we will say in credits later, but fun fact, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that seems interesting. Of like, I wonder if anyone has added on to like the sculpture or like other ones, or if it's the same person adding on more information, if it gets a lot of people being like, tell us more about this, or if it's other people adding on to it. It almost makes it more like case files.
This is definitely, like I said earlier, this will definitely be our first SCP podcast. There will be a ton more podcasts surrounding SCPs just because there's thousands of them.
Yeah, now I'm interested. I didn't know what it was, and I was like, why are we doing a part one? But now I understand why we were doing a part one. We only talked about 6, and it's been a little while, and it seems like there's so many more that we can talk about. Thank you so much, Leah, for doing all of this research and bringing in all these different things. It's definitely looks like a lot to read and watch videos on, and I'm looking forward to whatever we can figure out for part 2 of it. That was very interesting. Yeah. Well, this has been This Strange World, and we'll catch you on the next. We'll catch you on the flip side. We really got to come up with an outro.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at This Strange World Podcast.
Yes, follow us. We post stuff, probably.
We try to.
We try.
Yeah.
See you next time. Listen to the next one. Bye.
Bye. Want more of This Strange World? You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at This Strange World Podcast, and on Twitter at This Strange Pod.
Well, it's that time again. You've listened to the credits. You've probably already left this window. You're probably not listening to it. But if you are, thank you so much for listening. We're here. We're going to do some credits, some sources. We did not come up with all of these. These are pretty original ideas that we definitely did not come up with. I'm closer to my mic, so it's like a lower. But thank you for staying with us. Leah, where did you get your sources today?
The first source that I used was Wiki SCP. There are a ton of SCPs on there, so really go check it out if you're interested. The second source that I used was YouTube's Matthew Santoro, Top 10 Most Frightening SCP Stories. And the third source that I used was YouTube's Most Amazing Top 10 SCP.
Wow, that's great. Love
Okay.
that. Well, now it's the second outro. Thank you for listening to The Sources. Bye.
Bye.